Hey, Steve.
Greg, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm having a good day. What about
Good.
you?
My day's going good. It's Mother's Day here in California. I know for some of our
Oh,
Asian listeners, it's already passed
oh,
probably.
got it. I thought you were going to say some of our like New York listeners or something like that. It's not Mother's Day there, but yeah.
Yeah, they're
But
still
no.
dealing with it. But yeah, it's been a great day. I think the mom of my kids had a good day today,
Oh,
so
good.
that's great for me.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad. Is she in the audience again?
She is now, but I don't think it's going to be a long-term
Is she
thing. They're
is she already bored with us?
no doubt.
Okay. Well, hey everybody, it's Bird Brag, episode 5. I'm Greg Carson.
And I'm Steve Scott.
And we're here to talk about nature and stuff. But as always, what are you drinking, Steve?
So today on my shopping for inspiration, I found this.
Mm.
This is
Is that a toucan? Oh, the Guinness.
the Guinness
Oh, yeah, that's a classic old advertisement. They put that
with
on
the
the
special
can.
toucan can. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people that have followed the Bird Brag Instagram for a long time know that I first saw this can actually when I was in Korea last time, and I had never seen it before. And now I obviously found it here. But so the toucan kind of inspired me to pick an animal for today.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
What do you got today?
I went back to the tried and true, Steve. I went back to
Oh,
Greg Carson. I went back
you
to the
can never
Miller
go
Lite.
wrong with the Miller Lite.
So we actually had a listener who asked me, what's a Greg Carson, because we didn't explain it. And cheers, buddy. Cheers.
Cheers.
So had to explain that at my at one of the businesses I used to work at, we used to stock it. I would stock it purposely full of Miller Lights because I think it's a great beer. I like Pilsners. It's a very approachable, good, solid beer, and I will challenge anyone on it like that wants to compare it to Bud Light or something like that. It's a great beer. It's actually one of the most expensive beers Miller makes, and I love them. I love them. So it's come to equate that. So I'm not ashamed to it. Cheers.
I'm with you on that, Greg.
Yeah. And the first sip of a Miller is so good. Like it's
Yeah.
like that. It's like it. I mean, everyone's enjoyable, but that first sip of the day,
Mm-hmm.
just love it.
It's tough to beat.
All right, so the toucan can inspired our subject today. What's our subject today?
So our subject today is the Black Chined Hummingbird.
Oh, I love hummingbirds.
Who doesn't love hummingbirds?
Psychopaths.
Yeah, psychopaths. Um, Nobody else. I think that's the end of the list.
I'm going to jump ahead. Seeing a hummingbird in slow motion, like in super, super slow motion, is one of the most amazing, relaxing Zen things I've ever seen.
So you must have seen that on a recent Bird Brag Instagram
I
post.
did. I saw you do that. I thought you did a really good job with that.
Oh, thanks.
So we forgot the last couple episodes. I want to remind our listeners that you could reach us a couple different ways. One of them is birdbrag@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or topless photos. And the other one is our Instagram. And it's fun. And we'd love to encourage you guys to join us on the gram, as the kids say.
That's us.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. The Black Chined Hummingbird. What intrigues you about this animal? I'm glad. Wait, and then I'm glad we're back above the 50% mark on birds on Bird Brag. We were at 50-50 there for a bit. We had 2 birds and 2 other, a reptile and an animal. No, a fish. A fish and a reptile. So now we're back to 60% birds on Bird Brag. So
yeah, it might be a good idea to get a few birds kind of backed up so that we don't ever flirt with that again.
All right. Well, it's surprising that I like this pick, by the way. I don't know what Steve's going to bring to the table, and I'm already happy to learn about this guy. So where would we find this guy?
So, as with most of my Cali-centric picks, it is a bird that you're going to find here in the Sacramento area. but their range is anywhere from northern Mexico up through the western part of the United States and up just barely into Canada. A few birds do breed up in Canada. If you took a straight edge and kind of put it at the middle east-west of Texas and drew a line up to kind of the Washington, Canadian border, that everything kind of to the left of that would be your Black Chined Hummingbird.
So is that the Rockies it's following? It falls on the west side of the.
It's pretty close to that. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know how many flavors a hummingbird comes in. Is there lots of different types of hummingbirds?
There are lots of hummingbirds.
That's
fortunately for people who try to identify hummingbirds in this area in the Sacramento region during the summer, we pretty much only have two. I mean, there's other. Remember we talked about the Swainson's hawk taking a left turn in Albuquerque and ended up in Norway.
Yeah.
We do end up with a few kind of accidental vagrants showing up here, but for the most part here in Sacramento, we only have Black Chinned and Anna's hummingbirds during the breeding season.
All right. Paint the picture for us. What can we expect, or what are we on the lookout for these guys?
So as with most hummingbirds, they're small, right? So a hummingbird is pretty unmistakable. For most people, even that don't do a lot of their time bird watching, like some people I know. But they're about 3.25 inches long. They weigh tenths of ounces. So for those of you at home using the metric system, that's 2-3 grams. Or for those of you that have a drug habit, I guess, might know what that means.
And for those of you who are new to Bird Brag, we're obsessed with the metric system on Bird Brag. We don't know why it's not taken over the Americas the way that it's taken over the world.
I have to admit, though, I was thinking about the metric system quite a bit today when I was drinking mimosas for Mother's Day, and I'm not as good with the metric system when it comes to weight and with temperature. I really have to do a lot of kind of ciphering inside my mind before I can convert any of those things that mean anything to me.
I don't like how narrow Celsius is. I don't like it. It feels like, like we have more degrees. Like there's a pretty decent understanding difference between, 72 and 75 degrees, right? Mm-hmm. But like between 22 and 23 Celsius,
it gets lost.
I think so. I think there's something lost in there.
I'm with you on there. I would like, maybe if they adapted the metric system to be different from freezing to boiling, if it was a different scale, but
yeah. Well, let's add a 0 in there for Celsius. Let's go for
1,000.
Yeah. No, just 1 0. So 230 degrees or 220 degrees should be a big difference from 230 degrees, right?
Yeah.
I should feel that.
And 1,000 is boiling water. No, that's a great solution.
Yeah.
A perfect solution.
You're welcome.
I'll drink to that.
Or drink to that too. God damn it.
So it's a small bird, as are all the hummingbirds.
Okay.
Constant wing activity when they're flying. You can't even really see their wings unless you super slow-mo it like Bird Brag Instagram does. Mm-hmm. But so the excuse me, the females are relatively nondescript. They have kind of a greenish back. And the front side of the females is almost just kind of a off-white, grayish white color. They're relatively kind of slight of build. Like the other bird we have here at that time of year, the Anna's hummingbird is a little stockier. So the Anna's or the Black Chined Hummingbird is kind of a Anna's hummingbird, that's on a little bit of a diet, or maybe a younger bird that hasn't put on that weight yet. Mm-hmm. And the males is where the name came from. So they're similar in the look. They have that greenish back. They have a white belly and breast, but then under their bill, in what you would call the chin area, if a bird actually had a chin, it's black. And then right at the bottom edge of that black, there's a thin stripe that when it catches the light just right, it's really a bright, pretty purple. So yeah. It's a pretty nice bird. And the other thing that you can tell the difference between them and the Annas is their bill is a little bit longer and thinner than the Anna's hummingbird. I'm sure you'll be watching that.
Well, and I don't know if this is an accurate description, but one thing I love about hummingbird colorations to my eye is that those greens and purples are almost metallic looking.
Yes.
Like I just love that. I love that. Um, and then that they kind of shimmer a little bit with
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I've always been intrigued by that. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it definitely is amazing. Someday we should actually do an episode on bird feather coloration and what causes all those things. Not not
I
today
can't
though.
I can't wait. It's
Well, I'm sure everyone right now is like going to the
yeah.
archives looking to see if we already did it.
Yeah, no. We'll have to be better about that. We'll definitely, when this goes to the Library of Congress, we're going to have to be better about how we cataloged each
Yeah.
episode. Um, all right, so eggs, clutches. That's a callback to the previous
So
episode.
so so clutches. That's a new vocabulary word for some of us.
Yeah,
But
for a 49-year-old man in Northern California.
So part of the reason I picked this bird today is because, as you know from the Bird Brag Instagram, I have one nesting in my yard right now. And so typically a black chined hummingbird will lay 2 eggs that are very, very
Mm,
small.
mm,
So they'll lay like an egg. In fact, I've seen it described,
mm.
and this is kind of sticking with our whole metric system. They're coffee bean sized.
Oh, that's bitching.
Yeah.
That
So
is
what else do you need to know from that, right?
no. The bird just keeps getting more, amazing and amazing. 2, I would have lost that bet.
2, what would you have
Oh,
gone?
I would have gone over. I would have been betting the over on that for sure.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a pretty safe bet with a bird, right? So, a lot of your bigger birds lay fewer eggs like that, but most of the time your smaller birds will lay more eggs, but the hummingbird is kind of the exception to that rule. And so
Yeah,
they
so
have these 2. Go
that's an
ahead.
interesting point that I hadn't thought of. So like, um, uh, my understanding is an ostrich lays 1 egg at a time. Do chickens lay 1 egg at a time?
So chickens lay 1 egg at a time, but they have these very large clutches. So
Okay.
they're in like the game bird
Okay.
family. So they'll lay a bunch of eggs one day at a time and then incubate them all at
Okay. Got
once.
it. And then hummingbirds too. Wow.
Yeah. And they usually lay them a day apart, and then they sit on them. And so hummingbirds, they're small. Everything happens pretty quick. So they'll incubate the eggs for maybe a couple weeks, 12 to 16 days.
Mm,
And after they hatch, they hatch from the eggs, and 3 weeks later they're flying.
wow.
It's pretty impressive, really. I mean, how many of our kids walked at 3
Well,
weeks?
I don't know if I could ever recall, and I do want to see a baby hummingbird flying. That's got to be, again, if the eggs are coffee bean size, which is awesome, mind blowing. What size would you say, or do you know that they're flying at? It's like they're like an inch. If they're fully grown at 3.5 to 4 inches, when are they out there flying? How fast can they get? How big can they get in 3 weeks?
They grow very rapidly, so they do get pretty close to adult size. In fact, we're
In
going to get
3 weeks, they get to be adult size.
man, they put on the weight quick.
That's
It's like
amazing.
yeah, it is
Like, yeah,
amazing.
that means that you could almost watch them grow, like literally
So
watch them grow.
so an adult hummingbird, black chin hummingbird, sometimes they will eat 3 times their body weight in nectar a day. So if you're eating that many calories in a day, obviously if you're not burning them by flapping your wings at 1,000 beats per second or whatever it is, I don't know, then you're growing or you're getting fat. So these young hummingbirds grow at an alarming rate, actually, and they get pretty close to adult size before they start flying. And it's kind of funny, the nest kind of gets bigger because the nest isn't very big. If you That's actually how I found this hummingbird nest. Is so the black chin hummingbirds, they make their nest with spider webs and
Oh, how cool is
like
that?
plant seed fibers like cottonwood. You know the cottonwood seeds in Sacramento, right?
Yeah.
So they'll use
No.
those in their nest and
Yeah.
spider webs. It looks like snow on the ground.
Oh,
what
yeah. I know
Yeah,
what you're talking about now. Yeah.
So the reason I found this bird is it was on the side of my house, since I don't have a pest control operator that takes care of my house on a weekly basis or monthly basis, collecting spider webs. And so I watched it to where it was going, building the nest.
Wait,
And
how does it collect it? Does it collect in its beak and
yeah,
wow.
and it's built. And it takes maybe 5 or 6 days to build a
All
complete
right.
nest.
So there's a few questions I have on this. So one, how big? You said it's not very big nest, or what do we talk about? An inch, 2 inch,
So if you
golf ball size.
golf ball size, that's a good description for it. You know, I for the podcast
Steve,
listeners,
yeah. Well, he just gave me the okay sign, and I totally got golf ball out of that. By the way.
Yeah, and unless you're like Wilt Chamberlain or something like that, it's a golf ball size, right?
Oh, with your finger. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's
okay,
big.
understand.
He's a big guy.
I understood. Yeah, no, I didn't get where you're going. Okay, got it.
And so, you know, you got these 2 coffee bean eggs in there. But then by the end of the nesting phase, you have these 2, if they both live, 2, 3-inch plus juveniles in the nest that are still being fed by the mother. So that nest, like right now, I'll send a picture this week on the Instagram, but the mom is like spilling out of the nest, incubating the eggs. And so it's not even big enough for one adult, let alone these 2 juveniles that are going to be growing up in there in a little while.
And then, okay, so here's the other thing. I don't know if you get this from it, but the only scary part of a hummingbird is that sharp beak.
Right.
I mean, I've never seen or heard of a hummingbird attack, but that seems like it could take out an eye pretty quickly if it wanted to.
Maybe. So actually, one of my first jobs I worked with this guy named Ernie, and he looks just like it sounds. And we had just finished this job, and we were kind of sitting on the tailgate of the work truck, and this hummingbird, and it was actually a Black Chined Hummingbird. It came. You know how when sometimes you're out in nature, there's these like clouds of insects that seem to follow your head around, right? And it had to be less than 6 inches from his eye, and it was eating these little insects from right around Ernie's eye. And that was the first time in my life that I knew that hummingbirds ate anything but nectar. And so actually Black Chined hummingbirds can, if they're, obviously flowers don't bloom all year round necessarily where they live. And so they can survive for periods of time on insects alone, if there's no nectar sources.
Yeah. So my
but no eye damage.
No, yeah, I've not heard of it. I desperately want to hear about it, but I haven't heard about it. So my growing up, our next door neighbor, I grew up in the peninsula, Bay Area Peninsula, little town called San Carlos. Our neighbor, Mr. Bendel, who was kind of a cool guy. He got a little crabby at us friends every once in a while because we were pretty rambunctious kids. He had hummingbird feeders. And this guy, if you could believe it, would hang up the hummingbird feeder and he'd whistle and these damn birds would come. They knew his whistle meant food. And I'm not talking like 1 or 2. You talk about a half dozen of these guys would come do this. I thought it was the coolest parlor trick ever.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty good, right?
It is.
He had trained these hummingbirds, and when he passed away, he probably passed away late 70s, early 80s. When he passed away, the birds didn't come around. Didn't see hummingbirds anymore in the hood. So there's my hummingbird story. That was my start of. That was the start of me really appreciating.
I've never tried the whistling trick.
It was a high pitch whistle. It was like through the teeth, like
okay.
Thing. It was amazing. He did it loud.
Well, maybe now's a good time. So Black Chined, several hummingbirds, they do these mating displays, and they'll go up really high, like 100 feet up in the air, and they'll make these dives down and go back up in the air at the end of the dive. And when they're coming down, either with their wing feathers or with their tail feathers, the air moving past those feathers makes a whistling sound. So we're talking about the whistle, but let me play the song for you. So this is oh no, I ruined it here. But this is a Black Chined hummingbird, and
I didn't even know they made sound. Like, honestly, I didn't know that they made a single sound.
So black chin hummingbirds make these like really kind of just clear kind of chirps, that
Okay.
kind of thing. But when they're doing their mating displays, so what I'm going to play here is it's just a black chin hummingbird flapping its wings very rapidly and making this buzzing sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll hear this kind of thing that is when they're coming out of that dive, and it's the wind kind of whistling through their wing feathers. Are you ready?
Wait, that's a combination of the wings and and it making sound.
There was a little bit of everything in there, yeah.
Yeah.
So the
One
thing
more
that
time. One more time.
oh, it lost it.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so they've actually done some studies. So on a black chin hummingbird, they did it with some real high speed photography, and they determined that it was most likely wing feathers making some of those noises.
Mm.
But the other bird that I've been talking about, the Anna's hummingbird, they actually removed a couple of the tail feathers, and if they removed
That
like
seems real mean.
the third tail feather out from the middle,
Mm-hmm.
it could not make that. They make a different noise when they're doing their display dive, but they couldn't make their noise if they removed that tail feather. So they actually isolated it down to the tail feather on what was making the noise, which is pretty neat.
Hmm.
If you're a nerd, if you're a nerd.
Yeah. Well, and so that leads into, as we've discussed before, "shake your tail feathers," one of my favorite phrases of all time. So, you could always talk about tail feathers on this podcast, Steve. You're welcome to anytime that you want. All right. Is there any last notes about the black chin hummingbird that you want to leave with our listeners?
I really don't think there's anything else that someone would want to know about them.
All right. So first few episodes talked about baseball. Then we got into Jordan. In the last episode, we talked about, what did we talk about the last episode, the end of the last episode?
TV.
Oh, yeah. TV. Oh, yeah, about what's on with Ricky Gervais and Seinfeld. Do you have any subjects that you wanted to discuss?
I wish you would have prepped me for this, but I actually just got some live feedback from I sent out a blast with our first episode earlier today. I just got some live feedback.
Okay. And so what was the feedback? So
the feedback from this particular person was, "This is awesome."
Oh, stop it.
No, I would not lie about this.
Oh, that makes me feel good.
And then,
like I said, we're still figuring out some audio issues, but that makes me feel good that the content's there.
Yeah. And that literally came in right while you were asking me that question. Because earlier someone sent me kind of a meme in response to me sending out the podcast saying, "Finally, our national nightmare is over."
Oh,
so that's just some of the feedback we've already received from this groundbreaking podcast.
Oh man, that feels good. Yeah. Cheers to that. Steve polished off his beer in one sip on that.
Sorry. This must have been a short or long episode. I mean,
you say that every time we're almost dead on 30 minutes, every single time. Like we're really conscious of being a good host on this podcast. So I was going to ask, did you go, what's the last run you went on? So Steve and I are both runners. Like our primary, or our preferred form of exercise would be to go for a run. I love running on a treadmill, which gyms are closed right now. So which I like running outside. I just prefer it. And so what's the last run you went on, Steve?
So full disclosure here, I'm kind of coming back from you probably hear this story every time I talk to you, because it feels like it's always happening to me, but I'm coming back from a slight hamstring injury.
Yeah. I've heard this story before.
I went on what I call my hamstring recovery loop.
And
it's about it probably sounds kind of weenie to you and most listeners out there, but it's about a 2.6 mile loop.
Yeah.
And I made it to 2.03 miles. And then I could feel it. It didn't hurt yet, but I could feel it. And so
did you
I'm
pull
like,
up?
okay, I'm shutting her down right now.
Nice.
I walked home from there,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go again tomorrow, and I'm going to try to complete the whole loop at once. And that was on Thursday.
I had a thing. So I'm lucky enough to live right by the American River in Sacramento. Beautiful area, right there. And so I've outlined a bunch of runs, but I don't run as far as Steve normally. Like 5.5 would be a long run. 5.5 miles, long run for me. So 3.5, 4 miles, a lot of my loops. And I went up to the river, and I took my first step, and my ankle, it felt like my Achilles was on fire. And I'm so stubborn that I didn't turn back right away. I walked it out a little bit, and then I sat and stretched for a little bit, and then I walked further. And then the more I walked, the better it felt. It was obviously stretching out. So I went for, I don't know, about a 4 mile run. And then immediately came back, iced it, and then did all this stuff. And I was waiting for the next morning for it to be just destroyed. And whether it was luck or the stretch or was just like a twinge or something, I felt pretty good. So I don't know if I got lucky there, but man, it made me nervous. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I hate that.
Oh man. All right.
Hey, so speaking of the American River, do you see rattlesnakes very often when you're going on there?
I've never ever seen a rattlesnake. So I'm the one of all my friends, neighbors, colleagues. I'm the one person, and I'm pretty oblivious as I run and walk to these things, because I know that like this time of year they'll be sunning out on the path and stuff too. But I've never seen one. I want to. Like I know it would be kind of freaky, but I've never seen it. Yeah,
I think it was either the first or second time we went for a bike ride from where your house is, the closest access there, and we saw one right.
Oh man,
upstream from you.
All right, I see a future bird brag episode.
I like it.
Happening. All right, what did we learn today? We learned that for some reason Steve was drinking Guinness in Korea. That's a real interesting choice. We learned that hummingbirds weigh tenths of ounces.
Grams.
Which is grams, and just mere grams in the metric system. To quote Steve, he said the females are nondescript. That was a direct quote.
I said that?
I didn't say that. That was you.
I don't believe I said that.
Yeah,
I'm going to
go back. Okay. All right. You do that. Yeah, those are your words. Hummingbirds grow fast. They're fast growers. We learned that Steve refers to Instagram as the Instagram, which I love, putting that in front of it.
Because I'm like 90.
Yep. We learned about his friend Ernie, which I didn't ask Steve to paint a mental picture because I didn't need to. We learned, Steve learned about Mr. Bendel, about me growing up a little bit, calling hummingbirds the hummingbird whisperer. I wish I would have known that term back then.
Yeah.
And that the tail feather, when you remove the middle tail feather, the hummingbird doesn't make it's dead to everybody. It should lose its will to live at that point. So we learned a lot in this episode.
It was a short one, but it was good.
It was it was exactly the same length of every other episode we've done. so we're not taxing the listeners very much on these things. Like these are quick quick ones.
It seems like long to me.
Yeah. No, like I think we're nailing it. All right.
Okay.
I think it's time to bid adieu.
Cheers, Greg.
Cheers, buddy. I will we'll connect soon. And then for everyone, we do a terrible job plugging it, but again, please reach out to us at birdbrag@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram pretty easily.
Put a comment on SoundCloud.
Yeah, we're gonna have swag pretty soon that we're gonna be doing, starting with t-shirts. I'd love a hat. And then please reach out, everybody. And then all right, but I think that's it. I think we nailed it.
Maybe everyone can tell us what logo they like too.
Oh yeah. And so yeah, like suggestions on birds and animals. Give us some feedback. That would be great. So, and then Steve's going to be actively looking at Twitter, right, Steve?
Yeah.
I just put him on the spot. All right. All right, everybody. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you soon.
Happy Mother's Day.
You got it, mother.